All right, so here we are. Boston won in Chicago. I didn't do the happy dance and I didn't play the music today. Now, yesterday after Boston won, I probably danced for around 2 minutes after the game. I played Shipping Up to Boston, start to finish, which is my playoff tradition. Today, though, that game didn't exactly inspire confidence in me. First off, um, Khudobin should have been charged with robbery after the game. Because without Khudobin, that game's about 5-2 for Chicago. Um, Khudobin's been the better goaltender for Chicago, or for Boston, I should say, for the last couple of months. So if you watch today's game, you saw what I've seen, which is that Khudobin is a better goaltender than Tuukka Rask at this point. I'm not saying overall. I'm not saying, oh, in the playoffs they're going to start Khudobin. I'm saying at this point, right now, April 2nd, the best goaltender in a Boston jersey is Anton Khudobin. That being said, there were things that I was happy with today. I was happy with the continued success of Bergeron and Marchand. Krug made me a little nervous, but it was nice to see Kevin Miller get a goal. Kind of makes up for a couple screw-ups he made earlier in the game. And then Pierre Maguire made this long-winded statement about how great Kevin Miller's been for the Bruins all year. I don't think Pierre Maguire watches a lot of Bruins games. I've watched a lot of Bruins games, and I haven't praised Kevin Miller in any of them. He's a good shot blocker. He's decent in his own zone. But I would like to see him replaced by somebody who's more mobile and who has more of an offensive upside than Kevin Miller has. Of the top six that the Bruins currently employ, to me, Miller is a hair ahead of McQuaid in terms of replaceable. That being said, they won. They won 3-2. Miller scored to make it 3-1, and then immediately the puck goes down the other ice, and 2-2 scored. So, of course, because 2-2 scored, I started chirping lines at the TV like the hockey players in Letterkenny. You have to watch Letterkenny to get it. Some along the lines of him being a hero, which I thought was entertaining and terrifying at the same time, because I really didn't want Chicago to get it going. And when Jordan Tootoo, who is not a scorer, scores a goal, that can then inspire the next shift from Taves, Kane, Hossa, Panarin. There's a lot of pieces in Chicago that can hurt you individually, and collectively, the Hawks are a scary team. But thankfully, Boston did get the win. With that win, they're currently in second place. Ottawa drops down to the number 2 wildcard spot, and they'd have to play the Capitals. So, I know Toronto has 2 games in hand. I know Ottawa, I believe Ottawa has 1 game in hand on Boston. I'm not looking right now, but it makes for an interesting matchup. If Toronto struggles in their last few games here, and if Boston got second place, that would be a surprise. This 5-game winning streak has been a surprise because they go winning streak, losing streak, winning streak, and I don't know which team for Boston is closer to the reality. I don't know if it's the winning streak team or the losing streak team. I know the game against Chicago today was a game that Boston didn't really deserve to win. I didn't look at today's game and say, oh, well, that was Boston's game from the start. No. And there were certainly guys in the booth who wanted to make it seem that way. Like Bergeron, is a hero, and Marchand's been playing great, and I agree with those things. But it was just Khudobin. Without Khudobin, Boston is licking their wounds and going home for Tuesday's matchup with Tampa. Now, Tuesday's matchup with Tampa becomes interesting. So Boston's currently 6 points ahead of Tampa. If they win that game with Tampa, Tampa's done. Right now, Tampa's fallen 5 points back now, because, of course, Ottawa's the team they're chasing now, not Boston. Boston's a point ahead. The Islanders are playing right now. They were leading Buffalo last I saw. So Buffalo's sitting Islanders are sitting 7 points out, tied with Carolina and Philly. But I think in terms of making the playoffs, I think the odds just got a lot longer for those teams with 84 points. especially I would think for Carolina, because the home stretch, and they've had such a long undefeated stretch before last night's game. I just, every team has a bit of a letdown after a long winning streak or a long undefeated streak. This is a bad time for it. But again, next year, I really honestly believe that Carolina's in the playoffs at this point of the season. But for right now, it's Boston. 92 points. They are absolutely worthy of the spot they're in based on their most recent winning streak. So, yeah, that loss at home for Chicago definitely will bump them down the power rankings at the end of the year, probably. But I mean, I had Boston at 17 in the power rankings for Thursday, so just having the power rankings up and looking at them, it's like, okay, these teams have all moved, but I can't update the power rankings every day or it just becomes chaos. Absolute chaos. So, you guys can let me know what you guys think in the comments regarding this game. I think it was kind of tough to watch in spots. I know what drove me nuts with Boston today, and I really thought they got away from this under Cassidy. This was a Claude Julien problem. They get a lead, and then they sit. Okay, guys, everybody come back. All of you form a line of 5 around the goaltender, and we're just going to watch the clock and make the clock die. It's a terrible strategy. It is an awful strategy. And it looked to me like that's what Boston was doing today, was they got a lead, and then they just sat on it. And you can't do that against Chicago, and certainly in the playoffs, you can't do that. If they played, right now, if they played Toronto, they can't play that style against Toronto. They will lose. I'm a Boston fan, and I watched them knock out Toronto, and I was all happy when they did it in 2013. I'm not stupid. This is not the same Bruins team. That is not the same Maple Leafs team. That, if they did that against Toronto and tried to sit back with a lead, they're going to lose that lead. Absolutely. So, again, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And for anybody who might be relatively new to the channel, my hierarchy goes as follows. Vancouver's my favorite, Boston's second, and Dallas is third. There you go. I cheered for Boston when I went to the Boston-Vancouver game a few weeks ago because the game was far more important to Boston than it was to Vancouver, who I knew wasn't going to make the playoffs. So when my teams are up against each other, if one of them isn't going to make the playoffs, I don't want them to win the game against the team that's going to. So that's the ruling right there. That's how I decide who I'm going to cheer for and who I'm not going to. Anyways, thanks very much for watching, and I'll talk to you all again soon.